So just getting ready to go on this trail run, and then we're gonna go home, we're gonna get some food, then we're gonna have a great workout and a date night tonight because it's a normal day for us. When you see the workouts, when you see, the schedule, this is what we do, and it's not a flex. It's, pride. There's a lot of pride that we feel about the fact that we can live our lives this way through the business that we've built. And what I want to talk to you guys today about is, you might think, oh, this is a business channel or this is a training channel, but really they're one and the same. Both of them are vehicles that we use for personal development, whether it's pushing ourselves on this trail. We're going to do a 10K today, probably somewhere around 5 to 6 miles, depending on how many times we get lost. It's all about the journey. It's all about what we learn along the way. It's all about how we get better as people. And today I really want to talk about a lot of those lessons that I've learned, whether it's been 15 years competing in powerlifting, 2 bodybuilding shows, and now, tearing my quads, working myself back to being able to do athletic things, run, jump, sprint. That's the lessons we're going to go over today. So I'm going to finish getting ready. We're going to hit the trail and we'll catch you when we're back. Oh, my hands are so cold. So I guess the first lesson, on the trails, and one of the reasons I like trail running so much, I've gotten into it over the last few weeks, is that you have to self-pace. I'm not going to sprint up every hill. I'm not going to bomb down every downhill. Different trails, we got lost like 2-3 times, but it's all about having fun out here. And I find myself in my training as a default, as a type A person, I want to do all the things, whether it's every tool, every supplement, train a million times a week. More isn't better, more is more. And that holds true whether it's in training or whether it's in business. You can only do so much. You can only take on so many clients. You can only work so many hours within a day before you break down. And I would be a hypocrite to say that you can't do that for a short period of time, because in a lot of instances, you look at the most successful people. I'm not super successful, but I'm doing okay. There was a period in my career where I was working from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, with the exception of training. I also didn't have a wife at the time. I didn't have any responsibilities, but you can do that. And sometimes it is required, but you will burn out. And I did that twice. You learn from your training. You learn from pushing yourself. You adapt that to business. You also adapt what you learn in business to your own training as well. The parallels are plenty. And regardless of what you choose to do, just make sure that you have an end goal in sight, because that burnout, that rock bottom, it is not something that you want to experience for a long time. So that probably wasn't my best work. Didn't do a great job communicating. My hands were freezing. But basically what I was trying to say, when we finished the run, a lot of people get overwhelmed because they could try to do everything. And there are times when doing everything is required, but in order to sustain the growth of your business, in order to sustain the progress in the gym, you need to learn to ask the better question, which is, what's the best thing I can do? And the only way to answer that question properly is to specifically identify the bottlenecks that you're dealing with and figure out the best way to attack that one thing at a time. And if you double down on the one thing that you need to do to make that big change, you're going to have a lot more success. And then once that thing is fixed, you can move on to the next bottleneck. It's a hard lesson to learn because ultimately you're highly motivated and you want to do everything, but doing everything will only get you so far and will have a lot of negative repercussions in the back end, like the burnout that I talked about. The next element is discipline. I talk a lot about discipline. I think discipline is incredibly important as a stepping stone. And discipline, again, will get you so far. People might look at the things that I do. I'm sitting here about to have this meal, and they might think, oh, you're so disciplined. You go for a run every day. You train, 12 times a week right now. I've trained as many as 16 times a week, done it for the last 21 years. I think I can count on one hand the number of workouts that I've missed in 21 years. But I don't do that because I'm disciplined. I do that because I am someone who trains. It's part of my identity. Discipline will get you very, very far because it is a stepping stone towards identity. You need motivation to start the habit. You need discipline to stick to those habits. And then you ultimately become someone who just does the thing. It no longer takes discipline. It doesn't take that extra to do. It's just something that you do. When it comes to building your business needs to be a representation of your identity. So if you look at Master Athletic Performance or Coach's Corner University as they are today, that's not how they always were. They were the product of me going through this period of discovery. In the same way that my training today doesn't match the training that I used to do before. I used to train for football or basketball, and then it became training for powerlifting. Then it became training for bodybuilding. Then back to powerlifting. Then back to bodybuilding, and now what it is. That's been shaped by my identity through those periods. And now you might look at my training now and think, oh my God, this guy's training ADHD. But no, I'm just someone who trains, and I'm enjoying my training, and that involves doing a lot of different things. And that translates into doing hard things, because inevitably you will reach challenging points. You will reach workouts that you don't want to do because they're going to push you out of your comfort zone. You're going to reach bottlenecks in your business that really stress your ability to persevere. But if your identity is matched to the challenges that you're facing, it no longer becomes a question. There's no negotiation. So the question here is, that's worth sitting with, is not what kind of business am I trying to build, or what kind of physique am I trying to build? It's what kind of person do I need to be in order to get to the place that I want to go? Because once you start acting like that person, the results will happen. They're a byproduct of the process. You don't even need to think about the outcomes as long as the process is locked in. So ultimately, the message here is you don't need more discipline. You need a clearer identity. I'm going to get this meal in, and then we're going to go train. I'll catch you up with you at the gym. That was a tough one. So we're home. I'm eating an apple, and great session. Great session. I used to really struggle training after running, just the amount of glycogen I burned during the run. But as I've gotten better at fueling, training sessions have been a lot more productive. One thing that's become very apparent to me is that over the course of my career as an athlete, there have been a lot of iterations. And I mean, most recently coming from bodybuilding, it's a very rigid way of training. You get very restricted in your movement patterns. It's all in service of the goal, right? You have to build up your structure to fill your frame. And that brings with it a few trade-offs. But that rigidity that, you get in mobility is very parallel to the rigidity that we get as coaches. You fall into this comfort in what you do. I think a lot of us fear discomfort. I think a lot of us fear failure. I think a lot of us fear holding up boundaries. So we bend and we flex and we accommodate because we think that's what our clients need. And we end up putting ourselves and our own priorities at risk. My training is very important to me. It's one of my most important values. Hey, baby. Thank you. And it's very important that I keep that in my schedule. I plan my meetings around my training. I don't miss training for work. Initially, as a coach, if you think, or as a business owner in general, you think, if I hold up boundaries and put myself first, I might lose clients. The reality is that you won't, ultimately. Same thing happens with raising your rates or putting in office hours or assigning people specific check-in days or extending your response timelines. A lot of these things that we think are to the client's benefit, like response timelines, thinking you have to respond right away to a client. That's actually to their detriment. They need time to internalize their own feelings of the workout before they can truly understand the feedback that you're giving them. A lot of the things that we think we're doing well, like charging less money, means that we don't get as much buy-in from the client. Training forces you to push into discomfort. And I think exposing myself to the discomfort under a bar, on a run, in training has only served to enhance my business. I think another parallel that this comes to is posting. Standing on stage at a bodybuilding show, you're literally half naked or almost fully naked, being judged by your peers. That's how it feels when you're posting on social media or when you're putting out content. But ultimately, the judgment that you're worried about from your peers isn't the judgment that actually matters. It's the judgment from people who might potentially be your clients. So in a lot of instances, people post for their peers rather than posting for the clients that they want. Again, is a detriment to their marketing strategy. The more we can push into discomfort, the better off we're going to be. I'm going to finish this apple. I'm going to have a shower, and then Liv and I are going to have a date night, and I'll come back to you with the last part. Sunday, day after, date night was awesome. Ultimately, that's why I do what I do, so that I can live the life that I want to live. I used to do all the same things that you would think would build a business. More work, more clients, more hours, less sleep, more grind. And it did pay off in a lot of instances. And I think that all of us need to go through that stage in order to find out how hard we can actually work. But at the end of the day, the training, the business, it all needs to lead to a life that you actually want to live. I've architectured a life that I never believed was possible with a woman that I Honestly, in a lot of instances, I question whether I deserve her or not, but she's quick to remind me that I do, and I'm so grateful for that. One of the reasons why I think I'm able to do a lot of the things that I do, and it's a core tenet of a lot of what I speak about, is alignment. Like the training, the business, the life, it's all in alignment. And I think that's what makes it so easy. And I had to do the work to get there. Like I had to understand how I think, how I feel, how I act, how all that works together, and then harness that into something that I actually wanted. In so many instances, I was building a business that I didn't want. You know, I mentioned a number of times how I started an app, and I love the process of building the app and doing all the market research and speaking to people. But when it came to actually owning an app, I fucking hated it. I became someone who worked behind a desk and didn't actually get to interact with people. And it was an expensive lesson. I lost $100,000 in that, but that's what actually led me to the position where I was able to know, coaching and mentoring is what you need to do. That's what lights your fire. So if I can help you guys avoid those mistakes along the way, I hope that's what you take away from these videos. Most of the problems that I see coaches make aren't strategy problems. They're alignment problems. They're building something that they don't actually want, whether that's because they think that's what people expect of them, or that's what they think is required, or that's what they think might make them feel good enough. I know for me, that was a big piece. Working hard made me feel good about myself, because if I was being productive, I would feel like I was worth something. I think that's a really common trait in a lot of people, especially men. So if you're going through all the work, ask yourself, is this actually what I want? And if the answer is no, don't be afraid to pivot. Definitely didn't want to do that session I just did, but we did it. We got it in. We came over to my buddy Paul's gym called Life of Strength in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Just needed a change of pace, was doing check-ins all day, and figured what better way to get in the stuff that I needed to get done. And I think that's a perfect example. I didn't want to do it, but I did it. I feel better afterwards because I kept a promise to myself, and I proved again, I am who I say I am. I'm someone who does what's required. That philosophy has got me to where I am now. Business I love to run, clients I love working with, beautiful wife who I get to spend time with, and the freedom to train as much or as little as I want to. So ask yourself, are you doing this for the right reasons? Is this actually what you want to do? I hope my reflections on how training and business parallel were valuable to you. I hope it impacted you in a way where you seek to pursue opportunities for personal progression and also alliteration, and put you in a position where you question things. Right? Stop looking for answers. Start looking for better questions. Start investigating the reason you do the things that you do, and start to live life on your own terms. The key isn't answers, it's better questions. So go out there, raise the bar for yourself. Don't accept anything less than the standard that you hold yourself to. Catch you in the next one. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and I would love to catch you in the next video.